Today, we are diving deep into a really profound conversation between neuroscientist Andrew Huberman and psychologist Jordan Peterson. They laid out this powerful framework for how we can, actually guide our lives. And it's an idea that goes way beyond simple self-control into something much, much more interesting. So let me just start by asking you a question. Are your impulses in charge? I mean, we all have them, right? These primal drives for food, sex, safety, status. But the story we usually tell ourselves that we just need to suppress them to kind of stomp them out, that might actually be what's holding us back. And here's the core idea from their talk. It's all about a shift in perspective. We need to move away from this simplistic idea of inhibition, just stopping yourself, and move toward a much more sophisticated view of integration. This isn't about crushing your drives, no way. It's about channeling them, harnessing all that raw energy, and pointing it all toward a higher, more meaningful goal. All right, so let's explore this a little more. This whole framework of integration, it really changes everything. It's not just about becoming a well-behaved adult. It's about becoming a more effective, a more powerful, and a more unified person. Peterson gives this brilliant example. Think about a top-tier athlete. They are not suppressing their aggression. I mean, if they did that, they'd be totally passive and useless on the field. Instead, what they've done is they've learned to subordinate that aggressive energy to aim it at the higher order goal of winning the game. So the drive is still there, full force, but it's been tamed and it's been aimed. It's serving a real purpose. Okay, so what in the world does this look like inside our own heads? Well, this isn't just some psychological mind trick. It's actually rooted in our neuroscience. We've got to understand the different parts of our brain that are, believe it or not, constantly fighting for control. And this brings us to a really key term from Peterson, subpersonality. He argues that we should just stop thinking about our drives as simple impulses. Instead, I want you to imagine them as these little, single-minded personalities living inside you. And each one has its own goals, its own unique perspective, and a whole set of rationalizations for why it deserves to be in charge right now. Think about it. There's the god of war that just pops up when you're enraged, and all it sees are threats, and all it wants is victory. Or, the lover, which sees the world entirely through the lens of attraction and connection. Or even the addict, a subpersonality that is a master at rationalizing any destructive behavior just to get its fix. We all have these, and if we're not careful, we can just become a series of whichever one is shouting the loudest at any given moment. And check this out. This whole internal conflict maps directly onto the brain. The source of all these raw, powerful drives is deep in the brain, in a region called the hypothalamus. You can think of it as the engine room. It's just pure, raw power. But then you have the prefrontal cortex, and that is the captain's bridge. Its job is to take all that power and give it direction based on context, on the long term, and on the well-being of the whole ship, not just one noisy engine. Okay, this is where the conversation takes a really fascinating turn, because it bridges modern neuroscience with ancient wisdom. It turns out humanity has been creating maps of these internal subpersonalities for thousands of years. We just called them by different names. So here's the crucial point. Those ancient gods, Mars, the god of war, or Aphrodite, the goddess of love, they weren't just stories. They were symbolic representations of these powerful motivational forces inside of us. They were characters in the drama of the human psyche, and the myths about them were basically instruction manuals on how to handle them. This creates this really stunning parallel. The historical shift in religion from polytheism, a whole pantheon of warring gods, to monotheism, a single integrated god that actually mirrors the psychological development of a single person. A toddler is pure polytheism. Their subpersonalities are just in constant chaotic conflict. Maturity is the process of building one superordinate personality that can integrate all of them and aim them at a single unified purpose. Okay, so this is all fascinating theory, right? But how do we actually do it? This brings us to the most actionable part of the entire framework, finding true adventure not in escape, but in responsibility. Now, I know this sounds completely backwards. We think of adventure as breaking free from responsibility. But Huberman and Peterson argue the exact opposite. They say the greatest, most meaningful adventure you can possibly have is to voluntarily pick up the heaviest load you can carry and try to take it somewhere worthwhile. The biblical story of Abraham is actually a perfect archetype for this. He's called to leave his comfortable home and venture out into the total unknown. That's the call to adventure.
And the promise isn't that it's going to be easy. It's that by accepting this huge responsibility, his life will become a blessing to himself, he'll earn respect, and he will build something that lasts far beyond his own lifetime. This framework really helps us distinguish between real and, well, false adventures. A real relationship is a true adventure. It's uncertain, it requires effort, it forces you to grow. Pornography, on the other hand, is a false adventure. It offers effortless gratification with zero uncertainty. It doesn't create any value in the world. It just loops your energy right back into yourself, and that leads to stagnation.
So this all leads us to the final unifying concept. If we're going to integrate our inner committee and actually embark on a real adventure, we need a destination. We have to orient ourselves upward. That destination is what you could call a meta goal. It's not just about getting a promotion or finishing a project. It's the highest possible good you can conceive of. It's the aim that sits above all your other aims, giving them all context and, ultimately, meaning. And that's the ultimate key. 1. Having one single upward aim is what finally brings order to the chaos. It transforms that warring committee of subpersonalities into a focused, effective team. It gives the captain on the bridge a single North Star to navigate by, allowing them to finally harness all that raw power from the engine room for one unified purpose. And this is the ultimate promise of this whole framework. It's a profound psychological and, get this, even a neurological truth. When you truly set your aim on the highest good you can possibly imagine, your perception of the world literally changes. You start to see the path forward. Obstacles become opportunities, and the world itself seems to organize around your goal. So we're going to end where we began, with a question for you. Forget for a moment about the chaos of your inner drives and all the distractions of the world. What is your highest aim? What is the adventure that's calling you to take on responsibility? Because finding that answer, well, it might just be the most important thing you ever do.